I did once for Nick, and he did it back to me. So I did. Besides making movie, I think it's what I have got is unforgettable. There's a lot of great moments of that.
Last night.
This is the most brutal death scene in the movie because it's not a gunshot. It's hand-to-hand killing. Hand-to-chest killing, I guess. We actually, in earlier drafts, had set up Harv Presnell's Lazaro character as having a very bad heart condition. This was also set up in other scenes in which a signature line of Castor Troy is, "I have a confession to make," before he does something horrible. And the payoff, which is not set up anymore, is that the confession is that he admits to the head of the FBI Western Regional Office that he is, in fact, Castor Troy.
Yeah, that's what's happening right now.
And we really wanted to actually see Harv Presnell's reaction to this and have there be a bit of a moment, but it ended up happening very fast. So it's, again, one of those scenes where, wasn't exactly what we had in mind, but it's not like it doesn't play.
Pretty horrible. Does it right in the office.
And then covers his own ass. Nobody's going to believe he murdered him.
Kim?
Yes, sir?
Call the paramedics. Victor Lazaro's had a heart attack.
Oh, God, right away.
Thank you.
And this was another thing about how sort of easily he gets into the house that we had a bit of a quibble with. But, as Roger Corman told Michael Colleary ages ago, you could have 10 minutes of logical explanation or exposition, or
just cut to the backyard.
Cut to the scene and have it happen, and then and move on. This is where Nick is confronting Joan Allen in the shower, and this is the one scene that we did have to write where the whole plot is summarized in 30 seconds. Nick tells her everything the audience already knows, but at least we only did it once in the film. But it's a pretty bravura acting in this scene from both of them.
Eve. No.
Of course, to her mind, he sounds completely insane.
Don't.
And
she's amazing in this scene.
Well, yeah, she's amazing throughout the whole movie and grounds the movie, makes it so much more real and the stakes so much more emotional and higher, and just balances off the craziness of it. And of course, is an equal of those guys in the Department of Acting ability. But I have to give kudos to Nick Cage. This was his first day of shooting.
Oh, yeah.
And he had literally finished shooting Con Air the day before.
And had to do this.
And walked onto this set, into his most difficult scene in the movie. It's a real testament to
his brilliance.
His genius.
No, his brilliance.
I'm tired, Eve.
Travolta's first scene was no easier in a way. I mean, his son gets shot. I mean, he's crawling on the ground and he's desolate.
But that's just the way it is sometimes, obviously, with schedules, and especially when you've got two very busy guys, you can't always finesse those things the way you might like to.
And then somehow Castor came out of...
There were a lot of actors who were floating around this screenplay and this project. Initially we had written it with Sylvester Stallone and Schwarzenegger in mind, and then it was going to be Johnny Depp with Nick, and then it was Alec Baldwin and Bruce Willis. But, if it only happens once in our careers, it happened this time.
See, the love touch.
And the reflection.
Yeah.
I know you don't believe a word I'm saying.
Because at this point, Joan still thinks she's with the man that killed her son.
Yeah.
He's trying to convince her, but this is where the fact that she's a doctor comes into play.
And I love you.
I just can't imagine anybody else doing that scene.
Get some backup. What a day.
is.
Well, this is where the audience is not sure
Who she believed.
who she believes.
And now
I think she.
the threat turns toward her because now his brother is dead, Pollux is dead. Sort of the tide is turning against Castor.
And he has no one else he cares about.
I feel so close to you.
I read your diary. I know I shouldn't have. I'm ashamed. But I did.
But we put this dialogue in because we don't want the audience to know which side she's on. So he just admits, oh, I read your diary. That's why I've changed. That's why I'm not acting normally. And hopefully most people thought, well, she's going to believe it because it's logical.
Tito, then Victor, so what? I hope this doesn't mean I'm losing you.
Of course not.
But he still makes her come to him. None of the idea what came from John waving his hand, coming. It was his idea as well. That's the thing. That's how I work with my Hong Kong actor. You know, in Hong Kong, when I was working with Zhou Yunfat or Tony Leung, whatever, I always like them to bring in the true experience and true feeling into the character.
In the script, I think he woke up and there was some explanation. She says, oh, I left the window open. There's the mosquitoes in the room. But it wasn't really necessary.
Yeah, we give it. Trim it up.
Yeah. John Powell's score really added a lot to this quiet scene.
And for you writers out there, you'll notice that now, very subtly, the perspective of the movie has shifted away from our two good and evil leads and is now becoming...
The stakes over which this entire drama is playing, this woman now is taking charge of the film.
Right. You start to see the movie, start to understand the movie as a love triangle.
From my fake husband.
And that got a big laugh from the audience. We never expected it, but...
Maybe Sean's already dead, huh?
I'm moving very slowly.
But we got a lot of mileage out of that one beat because now she has to believe that that's her husband.
Between that and the fact that he remembers very specifically what happened on their first date.
Which actually was the details of a date of a couple of friends of mine who subsequently were married, but it was actually a pebble they found in their salad. And I'm not sure how it got changed, but it did.
Not knowing she was a vegetarian. So she ate bread and broke her tooth on a rice seed.
We were on set during this, when this was shot. My memory is that Joan and Nick spent a lot of time discussing how they were going to play this scene, and this is just the result of it. I think there were maybe they only did like 3 takes of this, if I remember, and they were all really good. I just remember that I was weeping when this scene was shot. I wept when I read what Michael had wrote here, and I wept again when it was shot.
Even though it must have hurt like hell. You kissed me.
And it's, of course, in some ways, the most horrible moment in the movie. Is she's about to say why.
We've been living together as man and wife.
And it's...
and
you can see it on Nick's face here. Again, it's just...
He knows.
The complexity of it all.
He can't fix that. He can never make it up for her.
Yeah.
But she has a good response.
Eve, I put you in that position, and I can never make it up to you.
We got out of it with this one line.
Well, you're damn well gonna try.
Yeah, we didn't have to deal with it anymore, thank God.
But again, it was another scene they wanted to cut out of the script. And we're like, we've got to, manage it. And we've got to confront it. I mean, it's what the movie's about. And to their credit, it remains in the film. The movie's 2 hours and 14 or 15 minutes long. They didn't cut any of the emotional stuff out.
That will be the day. I want you and Jamie away from there. Give him a good excuse.
I can cover for Jamie, but if I'm not coming, he's gonna know that something's up. Besides, I'm the only one who can try and explain the truth.
Excuse me, Mr. Archer.
Dr. Levine, to X-ray.
Sean, what are you doing here?
So sorry, darling. I just get so jealous. I mean, what is a guy to think when his wife runs off in the middle of the night?
That I'm a doctor that's on call, so please let me get back to work, okay?
Sorry. Lies, distrust, mixed messages. This is turning into a real marriage. How's Adam?
I took him over to my cousin's until this whole thing blows over.
Where's Jamie?
That's what I'd like to know. She stole $50 from my purse and took off.
So what's the next move?
This isn't your fight.
Come on, you're surprised. Our daughter won't even visit Michael's grave. You think she gives a damn about your boss?
We're really happy the way you edited this, you know, the cross-cutting, intercutting between the two separate factions.
We have a very good editor, I really like Chris' work. Chris Wagner, he really did a great job, He know my taste, and he's a very talented guy. What is cutting this film is unlike the other editors, he know how to keep the good pace and know how to keep the emotion, and also did a lot of new technique, and especially, he knows a lot about movies. So he know how to intercut with the slow motion and the, normal speed, that kind of thing. Great guy.
We are here to celebrate the life of Victor Lazaro. In nomine Patris, et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Gratia Domini nostri Jesu Christi, et caritas Dei, et communicatio Sancti Spiritus, sit cum omnibus vobis, et cum spiritu tuo. Fratres, agnoscamus peccata nostra, ad sacra mysteria celebranda, vimissus, et sanare contritus corde, Kyrie eleison.
John, you should talk about this sequence that initially in the schedule was
I think you should talk about originally this scene was set in the
cemetery.
Cemetery,
Yeah, it was a much bigger sequence. The service took place outdoors, and Archer, in that scene with Sasha, we just saw, Sasha delivers to him the same sniper rifle that Castor had used by
at the very
coincidence
beginning.
At the very beginning, and the idea was he was going to take a shot at Archer, John Travolta in this case, with that sniper rifle with a tranquilizer dart.
Which was provided by his wife, who's a doctor, and she gets the tranquilizer from the hospital.
And so we were going to bring it full circle with Nicolas Cage looking through the scope of that rifle at John Travolta again, but the characters had been flipped. And that was sort of a big payoff. Unfortunately, because of the schedule difficulties and just the scale of that, we were told that we had to shoot the whole thing inside this beautifully restored chapel.
It was a bathhouse that from the 1920s, that Neil Spisak turned into this chapel, as per John's direction.
And of course, Mike and I immediately went to John Woo and said, what about this? Can this be done? It seems, how are you going to do this? And John, as I recall, just